Hey, good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, April the 9th, 2024. The time now is 4:18 p.m. So, this video is a continuation of my Africa series, and the Africa series is a playlist in the channel, The Echoing Voice, that basically contains programs or videos pertaining to situation that Africa and Africans are dealing with. This includes economics, finance, internal and domestic politics, uh, education, technology, development, entrepreneurship, and so on. Yes, there are lots of programs of videos in the playlist, the Africa series, which includes specific topics or events that are specific to domestic Africa. However, because these programs and videos address topics or events that relates to Africa's position in the world or Africa's relations with the rest of the world in terms of geopolitics. Therefore, they are included as part of the Africa series. Now, on Sunday, I basically completed or concluded a program pertaining to Africa. Actually, about four videos I made on Sunday. So I made four videos on Sunday. One is just a short, and one is about the situation in Liberia pertaining to the Catholic community where people were basically removed from their community. Their homes were demolished and they had to leave. And the other program have to do with me commemorating April 6th, which is significant in Liberian history. And then another video is about Nigeria. So the Nigerian government wants to construct a highway that will span the country's coast from the Lagos region all the way towards the border with Cameroon. The article I looked at is about, or it focuses on an entrepreneur, okay, Nigerian entrepreneur who was born in the UK and left the UK in 2007, went to Nigeria, where he and his group, they created or established a resort, which is a very prominent resort. And the resort is in the way of the highway, and the government is basically asking him, his resort, to bounce, to move. And in the video, I stress that what the government is doing is the concept of eminent domain, okay? Because where the resort lies and the fact that the government is trying to build a public facility, a highway, okay, is supposed to be beneficial for society. However, I stress that the government should compensate him. Now, I decided to continue the African series because for the past few weeks I had made lots of videos about the situation, whether in Ukraine, the situation in Russia, or Israel's attack on the Iranian embassy complex in Damascus, Syria. So I decided that I should not allow the situation of geopolitics, of events that are happening outside of Africa, to take over my program, to be the sole focus of my channel, even though the purpose of the channel is to give Africa's voice, or African people voice in geopolitics. So I decided to continue with the Africa series. So I began to conduct research yesterday, and I came across an article which, when I look at the article title, it basically made me laugh because it does correspond to the video or the program that I did about the demolition of the Catholic community in District 10 of Monrovia, where the community is being demolished and people are being left uh, displaced. The article that I was able to find that I very much find to be interesting, I got from the AP, okay, the Associated Press. And the title reads, a Dubai company's staggering land deals in Africa raise fears about risk to indigenous livelihood. So it is very interesting, and this is an article that basically covers or address questions or events of African land being acquired by outside entities, outside governments and institutions, with the aim that they are using this land or they are acquiring this land for conservation purposes or to develop the land, with also the claim that it is supposed to be beneficial to Africa. So this is an ongoing event, an ongoing reality which African people have been striving, okay, against, protesting, demonstrating against. We are losing our land to outside institutions, okay, corporations, which I do believe in the future, the reality of Africans being displaced from their land, whether resulting from private individuals winning court cases that are leading to court ordering them to leave, their communities being demolished, or foreign companies and foreign governments acquiring the land. So I do believe if this continues, it is going to lead to a revolution in the future. One is that the African people every day are becoming poor. The majority of our people are uneducated. They are poor. They do not have opportunities to make their livelihood. In addition, there is no adequate infrastructure, whether we are talking about business, technology, economics, financial infrastructure, to basically complement the large growth of the African population. So we are having lots and lots and lots of people who are going to remain destitute. Okay? And this is going to be a problem. The youth, young people, whether much younger than me, okay, or much older than me. But when I say youth, young people, I'm talking about people from, let's say, 21 to at least 45. Many of whom are becoming educated in the West, and then you have those at home in Africa who are just tired of the mismanagement and what the government is doing, and the fact that foreigners are coming in and just scooping everything. These people are going to revolt in the future. So what this program is going to be about, it is going to be about the company, okay, a Dubai company by the name of Blue Carbon, okay, its acquisition of land in Africa. In the article, it is said that the company was established in 2022, and already it has acquired a whole lot of land. In fact, within few months after the company was established, it was acquiring lots of land in Africa. So the claim is the idea to preserve, okay, to conserve the forest land, and also for carbon credit. Now, the whole idea of carbon credit, I find it to be very suspicious, and I cannot even explain it for people to understand it. I have to read a lot about it. And that's how suspicious and not so clear this whole thing sounds. And this is one of the reasons that I feel like lack of education is another problem for Africa. Because our people lack education. The government, many of our leaders are not educated. And when I mean not educated, whether not educated in a way that the current education system in Africa complements the level of knowledge that we need, or not educated in a way that we have foreign entities hiring lawyers who are skilled in their craft, who are skilled in their English language, and engaging in activities with African leaders who don't know what the hell is happening. And our people don't know what the hell are being signed. So this is just the introduction. Thank you very much for watching, and I will continue. Once again, I will read the article's title and then I will continue. I am going to do as I often do. This means that I will read the article and then I will provide my feedback. Basically, I will provide or pose questions and also provide what I think should be the best solution to deal with the problem. Occasionally, as I read, I will take a break or I will pause and then I will reflect or basically analyze or critique what I had just read. Basically, each line or each paragraph that I read. So this is what I am going to do. Once again, the article is an amazing article, and the article's title is "A Dubai Company's Staggering Land Deals in Africa Raise Fears About Risk to Indigenous Livelihood." Once again, the article's title reads, "A Dubai Company's Staggering Land Deals in Africa Raise Fears About Risk to Indigenous Livelihood." And the article was written, or at least the author that is presented, his name is Taiwo Adebayo. So that name, Adebayo, sounds Nigerian. Once again, the author's name is Taiwo Adebayo, which sounds Nigerian. So I'm going to read. Abuja, Nigeria, AP. Matthew Wallace. Now, Wale is a Liberian name. So when I read the article, actually before coming across the word Liberia, the name basically ring a bell. Not only that, I do have family member with the name, the last name Wale, but Wale is a Liberian name. It could be spelled in various ways. But once again, I'm going to continue. Abuja, Nigeria. Matthew Wallace's eyes sweep over the large forest that has sustained his indigenous community in Liberia for generations. Even as the morning sun casts a golden hue over the canopy, a sense of unease lingers. The use of the land is being threatened, and they have organized to resist the possibility of losing their livelihood. Africa, we are people of the forest. We are people of the environment, people of the land. Okay? Our people, whether you go all the way back in to history during ancient time, we value the land. Okay? We work with the land. The land was or is our ancestors. Okay? We communicate to our ancestors with the land. The land provides for us. We keep the land safe. We nurture the land. So I'm going to continue, but I want to read that first paragraph once again. Continue. Abuja, Nigeria, AP. Matthew Wallace's eyes sweep over the large forest that has sustained his indigenous community in Liberia for a generation. Even as the morning sun casts a golden hues over the canopy, a sense of unease lingers. Their use of the land is being threatened, and they have organized to resist the possibility of losing their livelihood. In the past years, the Liberian government has agreed to sell about 10% of the West African country's land, equivalent to 10,931 square kilometers, 4,220 square miles, to Dubai-based company Blue Carbon to preserve forests that might otherwise be logged and used for farming, the primary livelihood for many communities. I'm going to pause right there. When I did the comparison, so the 10,931 kilometers, it came out as about 1 million something, 1 million something acres. So Liberia is about 27 million acres. And I had checked this before. Okay, Liberia is about 27 million acres. Okay, now I may not be exact, but I'm trying to reflect from past research which I have done. So the land that is being sold to Blue Carbon is 10% of Liberia's land. That is a lot of land. Now, Blue Carbon is saying that they are buying the land to preserve the forest that might otherwise be logged. By who? Who is doing the logging? Now, yes, our people may use the wood, okay? Once the trees are chopped down, they may use it for wood and other things, okay, to make fire coal or charcoal, if you want, if you will. But I don't think that the logging that is being done for domestic use in Liberia is significant enough compared to the logging that is being done to sustain international consumption. So I do have a problem with this. But now I'm going to continue. Blue Carbon, which did not respond to repeated emails and calls seeking comment, plans to make money from this conservation by selling carbon credits to polluters to offset their emissions as they burn fossil fuels. Some experts argue that the model offers little climate benefit, which activists label it carbon colonialism. I am going to read that paragraph or that sentence again, and then I will provide a feedback to that. Continue. Blue Carbon, which did not respond to repeated emails and calls seeking comment, plans to make money from this conservation by selling carbon credits to polluters to offset their emissions as they burn fossil fuels. Some experts argue that the model offers little climate benefit, which activists label it carbon colonialism. That is exactly what it is. Now, Blue Carbon, okay, is saying, and I'm glad that it is stated in the article, is saying that it plans to make money from this conservation by selling carbon credit. What is the carbon credit? How does it work? Who the hell are you? Who is Blue Carbon to go and what's the word? To monitor and sell carbon credit, quote unquote, to polluters. Who are the polluters? Are the polluters the regular African people? Are the polluters the regular Liberian people, the regular indigenous people who had depended on the land for generations? And why is Blue Carbon considering their daily activities as polluting? Because honestly, and it is stated in the article, that Africa's carbon emission is among the lowest, if not the least, in the world. And I did state that in one of the videos I talk about climate change, where I state that Africa is not using as much energy as the rest of the world, especially the industrialized world. We are not using. As a result, yes, Africa is hot, but the heat in Africa is not it's not an added heat compared to the West that you have everything that we are using, the electronic. Right now, I'm using cell phone. I am recording this video. I'm making this program using my cell phone. I have a computer open and another computer open. So I have two computers right now open. When I go home, I turn on my TV or turn on whatever things I have to use, and I have to go home and read. When I go home, I have to change to go to the gym. All the treadmills, the stairmaster, and all that thing, all these machines, they are using electricity. So it is very interesting what blue carbon is saying here. So I'm going to continue. Activists say the government has no legal right over the land and that Liberian law acknowledges indigenous land ownership. The government and Blue Carbon reached an agreement in March 2023, months after the company's launch, without consulting local communities, which are concerned about a lack of protection. So this companies had just been launched, and already this company is reaching an agreement with the government of Liberia to acquire 10% of Liberia's land. So if the agreement being reached or being worked on is taking such shape just months after the company's launch, it shows that things were on the way to acquire the land. In fact, the acquisition of the land was already taking place. And the company's creation, this is very suspicious, and it's not going to bear well for Africans if African people and governments do not stand up and fight this. But also in the future, I do believe this acquisition of land, of African lands, this aggressive acquisition of African land will lead to a revolution in the future, because the people are being pushed, and the more they are pushed, the more they are going to get up and want to fight back. So I am going to continue. Quote, there is no legal framework on carbon credits in Liberia, and so we don't have rules and regulation to fight for ourselves as a community, unquote, said Wale, whose community, Nizium, could see about 573 square kilometers signed away to blue carbon. Wow. Wow. People's land are being taken away. What this resemble is what happened to George Floyd, where the officer basically knelt on his neck as he cried, "I cannot breathe, I can't breathe." What we are seeing here is nothing but the rich and powerful basically stepping, kneeling on the neck, okay, of indigenous people around the world, of weak and powerless people around the world, as weak and powerless people around the world scream, begging, crying that we cannot breathe, we cannot breathe. So I'm going to continue, but also I want to read the previous paragraph or the previous sentence once again. There is no legal framework on carbon credit in Liberia, and so we don't have rules and regulation to fight for ourselves as a community, said Wale, whose community, Nizion, could see about 573 square kilometers signed away to blue carbon. A raft of agreements between at least 5 African countries and blue carbon could give the company control over large swaths of land on the continent. In Kenya, indigenous populations already have been evicted to make way for other carbon credit projects. According to rights groups like Amnesty International and Survival International. I am going to read that again. A raft of agreements between at least 5 African countries and blue carbon could give the company control over large swaths of land on the continent. In Kenya, indigenous population already have been evicted to make way for other carbon credit projects, according to rights groups like Amnesty International and Survival International. Exactly what I said. People are being dispossessed of their land. People are being kicked away, okay? People are losing their livelihood. Basically, they are being displaced. I'm going to continue. They have criticized the project as culturally destructive, lacking transparency, and threatening the livelihood and food security of rural African population. Many such projects are associated with appalling human rights abuses against local communities at the hands of park rangers, said Simon Council, an independent researcher of conservation project in Kenya, Congo, Cameroon, and other countries. The majority had involved evictions. Most were involved in conflict with local people, and almost none had ever sought or gained the landholders' consent, said Council, former director of Rainforest Foundation UK, a non-profit that supports both human rights and environmental protection. Africa contributes the least to greenhouse gas emission, but its vast natural resources such as forests are crucial in the fight against climate change. Indigenous populations traditionally rely on forest for their livelihoods, highlighting the tension between climate goals and economic realities. Cash-strapped governments in Africa are attracted to these kinds of conservation initiatives because they generate badly needed income despite concern about human rights abuses and transparency. So this is very interesting. Uh, blue carbon, blue carbon want to go and conserve Africa's land, Africa's forest, and create a scheme that would enable them to basically sell carbon credit. So this is a way to make money off the weak and powerless people. You want to go and preserve Africa's forest. And in this case, you're calling Africans or Africa the polluters. And Africa is actually the least in terms of the pollution, in terms of the emission of carbon. This is very interesting. And this is why we need to educate ourselves and our people and get those brave people in power. Because if company like Blue Carbon can do this, just imagine what the rich and powerful countries are doing behind the curtain. In fact, let's think about the possibility that Blue Carbon is actually a government company, not individual company. They might say, oh, it is individually run as it's stated, but it is actually owned by the government. Or it is owned by people who have strong ties with government. So I'm going to continue. Blue Carbon has only one project under development in Zimbabwe, which involves approximately 20% of the country's land, according to the company's website. Wow. 20% of Zimbabwe's land is in Blue Carbon's grasp. This, ladies and gentlemen, is not conservation. This is land acquisition. This is land colonialism 2.0 or whatever you want to say. I would not be surprised if things come out that these companies are backed by governments with the aim of populating these land in the future. I'm speculating here, but I would not be surprised if things come out that this is actually the plan. So I'm going to continue and I'll read again that line. Blue Carbon has only one project under development in Zimbabwe, which involves approximately 20% of the country's land, according to the company's website. However, through opaque agreements, the company has potentially secured staggering amounts of land across other countries, including Kenya, Liberia, Tanzania, and Zambia. since forming in late 2022. So this company is approaching year two of its existence. And already this company is a slave master. I'm sorry to say that. It is probably a harsh criticism, a harsh name to bestow upon the company. But this company is a slave master. In fact, doing this program on this company and based on the reality that is happening in Africa in terms of land grab, I do not feel safe. And this is one of the reasons why I was reluctant in my past life to make programs like this, okay? To share my idea on social media. Because Africans who talk are usually the ones who are killed first. I'm not saying that they are out there to get me, but I know my history. We know what happened to Africans who dare to talk. But this is a slave master mentality. It is slave masterism. And we have to talk about this. I'm going to continue. In Liberia, the government is required to obtain prior informed consent from communities before using their land for such deals. However, former President George Weah's government moved forward without it, according to activists and communities. It is very interesting that in Liberia, that foreigners cannot even own land. Okay, in Liberia, the land must owned by Liberians. But then, as much as foreign individuals cannot just come and grab the land, or at least that's what the law was supposed to be. You have foreign entities, foreign institutions, or government are coming and basically grabbing land. And the people of Liberia or in other African countries cannot even afford this land. People don't even make enough to afford the land, and the government is just siphoning the land away. I'm going to continue. Communities only became aware after activists mobilized against the deal following a leak through a network of non-governmental organizations. Although the agreement said talks with communities would be done last November, locals and activists reported that they did not happen. There is no opposition to fighting climate change, but it has to be done in a way that respects people's rights and does not breach the law, said Ambula Mame, a Liberian activist who has helped galvanize opposition to Blue Carbon's deal. Thank you very much, Ambula Mame. You're doing good, man. You're helping Liberia. We need activists like you. You are saving our people. You're fighting for our people, and so fighting for the future of Liberia. Please, but once again, I wish you safety and I wish you good luck. After protest from communities and activists, Weah's government halted the deal before the presidential vote last year, but he still lost the election. So I'm going to continue, but I'll read that line again. After protests from communities and activists, Weah's government halted the deal before the presidential vote last year, but he still lost the election. We resolved to vote the George Weah government out to stop the deal, which will devastatingly affect communities, but we don't know if the new government will restart it. Said Wale, the community leader, we are waiting for them. Perhaps this could be one of the things that Joseph Boakai in the far future will be known for. Yes, he's a new guy, new president, and I wish him good luck. But current and recent history may not place him in the top in terms of memory. But in the future, once the future history is written, people begin to reflect the past. They will look at him as, wow, he was one of those people who step up. Because this is bad. This is going to create a situation where our generation and our children's generation, whether in Liberia or the rest of Africa, will inherit deals and reality which they have no idea what is happening. They will have difficulty fighting it. And we have to be careful to not leave hardship for our descendant. So I'm going to continue reading the article. The new director of Liberia's Environmental Protection Agency, Emmanuel Yakpawolo, said the blue carbon deal was rushed through, a quick process that does not lend itself to a good level of transparency. I don't believe it's that it was only rushed through. Africa must get away from such a deal. Liberia and Africa must get away from such deal because such deal is oppressive. There is no freedom in the future once a country, a government engages in such deal, especially a poor government, a poor country. That government and that country will always have to depend on money, and the companies such as Blue Carbon will control the government and the country. So I'm going to continue. He confirmed the deal is on hold and said Liberia is now developing rules for selling carbon credits, which will emphasize balance between environmental goals and economic well-being of our people and take care of concern about indigenous people's rights, including alternative livelihood means. Blue Carbon in March sent out invitation to developers asking for a proposal for carbon offset projects. The company document, which activists shared with the Associated Press, does not say which countries it is targeting, just that basic land information will be shared with applicants. The process seems extraordinarily opaque given the significant amount of some countries' land involved, said Council, a conservation researcher. He raised concern about whether government understand it, let alone the people living in those areas. They are precisely the kind of opaque and inequitable arrangement that the UN should very specifically be guarding against as it continues to develop the rules for a global carbon market, Council said in an email. Blue Carbon was founded by Emirati Royal Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum, whose private holdings include fossil fuel operation. It has not disclosed the government or companies that will buy the credit generated from its carbon project. I stated earlier that companies such as Blue Carbon or other similar company are either owned by government or government official or people in government with strong power or strong ties to government. And this is what we are seeing here. You have a royal sheikh, Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum, okay, of the Emirati royal family. Basically, it's a private holder of Blue Carbon. So it is very interesting here. Once again, I'm going to continue. The effectiveness of carbon offsetting itself is debated. One concern is the concept of additionality, or the amount of carbon that a project claims it reduces through preventing deforestation. In many cases, it is possible those reductions could have happened anyway. A study by Council and Survival International on one carbon credit initiative called the Northern Kenya Grassland Carbon Project says livestock farmers whose livelihoods were open-ended by the project had operated within broadly sustainable limits. This, Wallace said, is similar to the practice of communities in Liberia where they have a duty to conserve forest under government rules. In addition, 40% of Liberia's forest land is already protected. This is interesting, man. This is terrible. This is terrible. I'm going to continue. This means that the project in climate terms has no additionality and any carbon credits generated do not represent genuine new saving of carbon, Council said. Plus, over time, trees release the carbon they are storing back into the atmosphere through natural aging, forest fires, and commercial use, which undermines the idea of forest absorbing carbon permanently, Council said. There is also the problem of a zero benefit to the climate. Protecting forests in one area may result in deforestation elsewhere as communities affected by conservation projects move to earn a living. That's the end of the article, and we have a note here which reads: the Associated Press climate and environmental coverage receives financial support from multiple private foundations. AP is solely responsible for all content. Find AP standard for working with philanthropies, a list of supporters and funded coverage areas at ap.org. So it is a very interesting article. I liked it. There are lots of interesting things that I will take from the article. First of all, I want to acknowledge that it is not a bad idea to conserve the environment. It is not a bad idea to conserve forest. Okay. However, my problem here is who is doing it and why. So you have foreign entities ganging up on Africa with the claim that they are trying to help Africa while they are trying to profit off of Africa. The thing here is their activities are not honest activities. They are not doing whatever they are setting out to do to help Africa. They are, in this case, ganging up on Africa, making money. They are creating or exacerbating the problem that Africa faces and making money in the process, which also leave Africa destitute and Africa to be beholden to them. So it's kind of also like a debt trap. And I used the phrase earlier that this is like it is slave masterism. Okay, these companies are basically slave masters of the 21st century, and I do believe that Africa and Africans need to be very careful. And I hope, I keep saying it again, the importance of having the right people in power. Because honestly, we do not need these kind of these kinds of initiative. What is important is the shutdown of Africa, the right people in power that would acknowledge the fact that we need help, but we have to help ourselves. Okay, African solution for African problems. In going about achieving our solutions to our problems, there will be headaches in the process. Okay, there will be lots of frustration in the process, but we have no choice but to keep on marching. We have a very large population that continues to grow larger and larger and larger. We need to think about how we sustain such large population. We cannot do so by having foreign entities ganging up on Africa, pushing the initiatives on Africa. Africa needs to shut everybody down and everybody out. Every outsider's down and every outsider's out. And we need to think internally about the crisis, the issues, the problems we face, and devise solution to tackle such issues or problem based on what is unique to our experiences, not based on the confines the prescription of outside forces, outside institutions, or foreign countries, foreign entities, because they do not mean better for Africa. So now I am going to end by reading my description for this program, which I think will also serve as a conclusion for the program. So in it, I will basically pose a question and solution to the problems such as land grab in Africa. What I think is the best option or the best way for us Africans to address the situation in Africa, such as land grab and the whole idea of companies such as Blue Carbon acquiring land in Africa. Already, they have access to about 10% of Liberia's land and 20% of Zimbabwe's land. And who know the percentage of land throughout Africa which they have access to. Now, Africa is the least developed region in the world with a population of currently of about 1.4 billion people, and it is being projected. It is projected that Africa's population by mid to late century will total about 3 billion people. I do not think such prediction is correct. I think is an exaggeration by an epic proportion. Because if this is the case, that means in Africa, we just, you know what. I am going to read the description or the conclusion here. I will continue. African governments are selling millions of acres of their people's land to foreign companies. It is predicted Africa's population will increase exponentially from 1.4 billion to 2.5 to 3 billion people in 2050. I do not believe that this number can be substantiated, and it also connotes results and a racial narrative of the people and continent. However, if this prediction becomes a reality, a significant amount of Africa's land would be unavailable to the additional 1.6 billion people, many of whom will be youth, who will make the continent's population by the century's end. So far, the land acquired is part of what makes up 60% of the world's arable land. Africa is home to 60% of the world's arable land. Whether intentionally or not, the current acquisition of Africa's land appears to be the prelude to mass expulsion and displacement of people in the future and possibly genocide. It is being predicted that by mid to century's end, the population of Africa will increase to about 2.5 to 3 billion people. Though I do not believe that such number is going to be the reality, yet if such prediction becomes the reality, it means that the land that companies such as Blue Carbon are acquiring will be unavailable to the additional 1.6 billion people who are going to be inhabiting Africa. I'm going to continue. The Liberian government agrees to sell about 10% of the West African country's land, equivalent to 10,931 square kilometers, that's 4,220 square miles, to Dubai-based company Blue Carbon to preserve forest that might otherwise be logged and used for farming, the primary livelihood for many communities. While dispossessing the people of the land and displacing them both internally and externally, African governments are giving outside governments and institutions colonialist like power over the people and land. At a time when the African population continues to rise exponentially, with the people lacking employment and opportunities of various sorts, African governments and their international backers are creating an extremely dangerous future for themselves, Africa, and the world. Africans cannot even afford to buy their land, but foreigners are scooping up the land for peanuts. Now I'm going to continue with my questions. 1. Why sell the people's land to outsiders? How does that benefit the people or the continent? How does that benefit the people or the countries? 2. Is blue carbon saying that Africans are polluters? Who and what gives them the right to curb Africa's pollution? 3. Why is carbon credit so important, and have African government considered that engaging in such nonsense will prevent the economic and technological development of the continent? Engaging in this carbon credit nonsense means you cannot industrialize or develop in the capacity you should. So, is blue carbon buying land in Africa to preserve it from logging? If so, what incentive are they providing to substitute for the use of firewood and to address other reasons or issues why forests are logged? Does this prevent the country from accessing its resources? 5. Why are blue carbon and other institutions trying to reduce Africa's carbon emission, which are also the lowest in the world? 6. Why is the Liberian government giving the people's land to foreign institutions? Doesn't this look and feel like imperialism or colonialism, a reality from which Africans have striven to liberate themselves? 7. Does this sale of African land provide food for the people? Does it improve our agriculture and animal welfare for food production? 8. Blue Carbon is a brand new company amassing huge tracts of land, and people in these countries cannot afford to eat daily. It now has access to 10% of Liberia's and 20% of Zimbabwe's land. This is not conservation, but acquisition. Outcome: 1. This could lead to a youth-led revolution. 2. This is not about emission, but control of Africa's rich land. The rich and powerful are strangling the poor and powerless, so we must educate our people and create projects that would produce new leaders, true Pan-Africanist leaders. The educated, clever, and freedom-fighting youth must be promoted to the most prominent leadership position to spearhead the change Africa needs. 3. We need brave and competent leaders, and not those who do not know or care to promote the brilliance of their people, their population. 4. Better option: shut down the continent or the countries led by the right leaders. No one in and no one out, but those citizens who had made home abroad, students and diplomats. Initiate the appropriate development program with goals and mechanism to define and assess achievement. There will be hardship, but we have no choice as Africans but to change and do so fast, or recolonized and possibly genocided. I am going to end here. Thank you very much for watching The Echoing Voice, and please subscribe. Send me your feedback. Let me know what you think. Let me know what I'm missing and what I could add in the future. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.